Hello everyone and welcome to All Things Watched. In this video we are going to talk about the brand new movie Trap, and this movie starred Josh Hartnett, Ariel Donegal, Salika Shyamalan, and Alison Pill, and a few other great actors and actresses as well, but those were really the main top billed cast. And so I went into this movie very excited, well, for one, just to see Josh Hartnett again. I was a huge fan of Josh Hartnett growing up. I feel like I don't really see him in a whole lot of things nowadays, but I was a big fan of him, growing up. I think the very first movie I ever seen with Josh Hartnett, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I think it was The Faculty, I believe it was, and I absolutely loved that movie. That was a great sci-fi monster type movie. If you're interested in that type of genre, I would highly recommend you watch The Faculty. I thought it was cool, but then again, I was very young too, and I haven't watched it since I was an adult, so maybe it's like a really crappy movie. I just haven't seen it in such a long time, but I know growing up I've seen it many times. And so I couldn't wait to see Trap simply for the cast alone, mainly Josh Hartnett, really. I just wanted to support him. And in this film, Trap, he portrays a character known as Cooper, and Cooper is actually a serial killer, or at the very least a killer in general. Maybe not necessarily a serial killer, but he's definitely a killer in general. And so the idea and the whole premise of the movie is that the FBI, the detectives, the police force, all the different agencies in the authority set up this big massive concert, and this concert is supposed to be a self-contained event, so to speak, which is still, available for the public. Like, if you're a part of the community or a part of the public, you could still buy a ticket to go see this concert, but really it was an undercover sting operation to try to catch Cooper, who was of course this serial killer. Now, at the point of the very beginning of the movie, and I won't go into too many heavy spoilers because I don't want to ruin the movie for you, but very early on in the movie you learn that the police know a lot about this guy, but they don't know exactly everything about him. They can't pinpoint exactly who it is, but they have enough evidence and enough crumbs sprinkled in their investigation to know that this killer or this bad guy is going to be at this concert. Now, Ariel Donegal actually portrays Cooper's daughter, who's known as Riley, and her performance, in my opinion, was probably the greatest performance in the entire movie, even probably more so than Josh Hartnett. Now, I do think that Josh Hartnett had some great moments in the movie where he did get to shine, where you got to see that very malevolent, sort of evil, while at the same time being this loving, caring father to his daughter, who he's taken here to see this Lady Raven concert and whatnot. So I did like his acting performance, but I do think that Ariel Donegal, or Donegal, is that how you pronounce her name? Donegal. I believe that her performance was by far the strongest of the entire movie, and she portrayed the daughter. So she really is the reason why they're here to begin with. Now, I really, really loved the concept of this whole idea that we're actually following this family, and the man of the family, or the husband or the father, is actually a killer, and the whole idea that everybody gets trapped in, so to speak, into this stadium because of this sting operation. So that whole idea was very intriguing for me, which is why I wanted to see the movie, plus the cast. But the whole idea of the movie was very interesting to me. One of my favorite TV shows of all time was Dexter, and Dexter is one of those TV shows where you're following a murderer, but you sort of root for him. You're like, man, like, even though you're not a good person, you're very evil, you're sort of root for him because he only kills people that are also evil. So if you're going to be a serial killer, then not that it makes it right to take a life, but I mean, if you're going to do an entertainment project with that, then you want the audience to be able to relate and maybe to some degree even root for the bad guy in this sense. But I think they did a really good job with making you not root for the bad guy in this case, and I would say that Act 1 and even most of Act 2 was very strong. I really enjoyed most of the movie up until there is one certain point when Cooper actually gets to meet Lady Raven, and he takes her aside, so to speak. And I won't go into details because I don't want to spoil the movie, but there's one scene in particular, probably about halfway through the second act, or maybe even 3/4, getting, you know, sort of moving into the climax, or toward the climax of the movie, when Cooper actually takes Lady Raven aside and literally just tells her and reveals to her that he is this killer, this you know, this butcher, or whatever his name was in the film. And the moment that happened, I just sort of, for me, and all these things are subjective, maybe you had a very different experience, but for me, I felt like the movie really went downhill from that point on. So I loved the first act. I thought the first act, honestly, was probably the strongest point of the movie. And even the first half, maybe even the first 3/4 of the second act as well. I basically loved the entire movie. For everything that happens at the concert, I loved all of that. But then, like I said, once we got to that point when Cooper sort of takes Lady Raven aside, it really took me out of the movie, because I was thinking, really? Like, this is the direction that they're going to go? They already have such a compelling story, great cast, for the most part, overall, pretty good performances. And I'm like, and I was just thinking, like, the whole movie was running so good. It was so intriguing. It was even sort of starting to build up some intensity. And then all of a sudden, he just goes to, like, the most famous person that he could have, and reveals it, you know, that he's a killer to her. And I just thought that was so absurd. Like, if he had have revealed this to, like, maybe like a security guard, or just like someone that's like sort of the average Joe, you know, or something like that, then sure, I think that could have been a very compelling, very interesting story. But he goes to the one person who's like extremely famous. With fame comes resources, power to some degree. You know, she has a security team, a private security team, a limousine, and this is who you decide to reveal that to. Even though I know the movie sort of puts him in this position where he almost doesn't have a choice, but I just thought, you know, at that point, I thought the writing really went downhill at that point, honestly. And I thought that the story become less and less intriguing. And then we get to the very end of the movie, and it's almost like they try to pull the rug out from under you, and they're like, oh, you know, you thought it was this, but now it's revealed that it's actually this. This is the reason why the trap was put into place, so to speak, and I don't want to ruin the movie for you. But I just thought it was really silly from that point forward. I loved the movie up until he takes Lady Raven aside, and then spills the beans. So I guess that's sort of a minor spoiler, but that'll happen like probably like halfway through the movie. And then from that point on, for me, it was just downhill from there, and I just thought it become more and more silly. He was like evading police and evading these certain situations that to me was just so unbelievable, and it really kind of took me out of the movie. Would I go as far as saying that this movie was a fail? No, I was still very thoroughly entertained, and I even absolutely really enjoyed, maybe even absolutely loved, the first half of this movie. I thought even the whole premise of the movie, the whole concept, I thought was very interesting. But once we get to the second half, leading up to the quote-unquote climax, the finale, the third act, I thought it really went downhill from there, and I just thought it become almost a little bit silly. But anyways, folks, that's my review of the brand new movie Trap. So let me know in the comment section below if you've seen it and if you liked it. Tell me why or why not. If you like this video, click that subscribe button, and until the next one, take care.